Let's talk running back ranks for week 16 of the NFL season. Fantasy playoffs are here. You are probably in the semifinals. If you're watching this, hopefully you're still in contention. Let's try to get you a win. Let's pull up the ranks right now and let's take a look. Let's go through them from the top to the bottom. We've got the name, the team they play for, their opponent for the week, and then how well that team does against that specific position. So, for example, the Arizona Cardinals allow the fifth most points to fantasy running backs. So, when you're looking at these matchups, a good matchup is a lower number. A higher number, like 23, is a harder matchup. Here we go. We're going to go from the top to the bottom and just talk about players as I see fit. For this first tier of players, we've got Bijan, McCaffrey, Gibbs, Achane. You can go with any of them. They're all excellent. I would start all of them before I started someone like James Cook or Jonathan Taylor because of their specific matchup or their combination of the offense. Speaking of Jonathan Taylor, Philip Rivers did not look horrible. The Seattle defense is not a great first game back in the NFL, and he looked okay, competent enough to keep an offense moving. I think the issues that we saw on Sunday were more related to that's a good defense as opposed to Philip Rivers can't do it or can't make an offense go. For James Cook, this is someone that has been somewhat matchup proof, still able to get a touchdown against any team. And the Buffalo offense is good enough to score on any team. So I'm not that worried about the Cleveland Browns, who have not looked as good at rushing, at stopping the run as they did at the start of the year. The Bears just had a great game against them. Maybe that's just the Bears. I'm a Bears fan. I love my Bears. Maybe that's just the Bears rushing attack that was able to make Cleveland look a little bit more pedestrian on defense. We'll see. Saquon Barkley at 7, Josh Jacobs at 8. Both really good players, decent matchups. The Bears have not been an amazing run defense. They stopped Quinshon Judkins and the Browns, but I think that's just the offensive line of the Browns that Chicago is able to take advantage of. However, the Bears are getting healthier. They've had stretches where they had none of their secondary, and then stretches where they've had none of their linebackers, and stretches where they didn't really have any of either. They are getting healthier. Their secondary is back and playing more. Jalen Johnson has been playing more. He's not as much in the run game, but their linebackers are starting to come back. So maybe they can slow down Josh Jacobs a little bit. But I think there's still a really good chance he gets in the end zone and that there will be scoring in this game against the Bears. Saquon against the Commies, they have not really stopped the run that well. If we're looking for a game for Saquon to have a long rushing touchdown, I would guess that it would be against the Commies. ETN against the Broncos. This might be too high at 9. I really like Travis Etienne. I think you can move him down a little bit. It's been looking great. The Jacksonville offense has been clicking. It wouldn't surprise me if they got slowed down by Denver. I think this number might be a little bit higher. I wouldn't be crazy to put Etienne here behind all of these options. This is all kind of one large tier of players. Henderson, Irving, Henry, Williams, Brown, Etienne. I would start each of them before I went with DeAndre Swift. But we'll just talk about Etienne where he is here. I think he started there. He's been getting touchdowns. I expect that Jacksonville will be able to score a little bit on the Denver Broncos defense. Maybe not as much as they have in past games. I still like Etienne's usage. Bashal Tutin has taken more of a back seat in the past couple of weeks, and Etienne has been succeeding. Henderson, same thing. Maybe not same thing. Henderson has been getting a larger role. Ramondre Stevenson moving a bit more into a secondary position as we get later in the season. Multiple long rushing touchdowns for Henderson last week. Got him at 10. He has that big play upside. Bucky Irving might have a safer floor than Henderson, but slightly lower ceiling. He's been getting better and better each week since coming back, playing more and more. The fantasy production doesn't quite line up with how well he's been doing and how much he's been playing over those past couple weeks, but I like Bucky Irving. Derrick Henry at 12, the Patriots, pretty tough rush defense. I think that there's a world where Baltimore can just score on this defense. This team has had an up and down year in terms of health on offense and on defense. It's still there, though. Like Derrick Henry still has it. It's just kind of the team around him. Javonte Williams takes on the Chargers. I've got him at 13. Not a ton to say. Similar thing with Kyren Williams. Been finding the end zone a lot recently. Blake Corum has been as well. Blake Corum is on a touchdown streak, but it has not really changed a ton for Kyren Williams. Other than this past week, Blake Corum has been around 30% of the snaps. He got up to 40 in the game against the Lions. It's possible that this team just tries to run more without Devontae Adams in the red zone. That's been their go-to play. Maybe it becomes Parkinson. Maybe it just becomes these running backs. So I like I like Kyron Williams. I kind of like Blake Corum a little bit more to get a touchdown this week. Chase Brown, I've got a 15 against Miami. Uh, Not a ton to say on him. DeAndre Swift against the Packers. Hey, this is it. The Bears have been running on a lot of hard run defenses. In the game against the Packers that we saw 2 weeks ago, it was a slow start with the offense, and then in the second half, the running was generating a lot of the offense for the Bears without Micah Parsons for the Green Bay Packers defense. I think that shakes up a little bit of this matchup. We just saw them play. They just played each other, and now the Packers are losing one of their best players. I think that's going to help the run game quite a bit for the Bears and their offense in general. Hampton at 17. I've got him higher than most. I'm not really that worried about Kamani Vidal having a role or the struggles of the offense because they're playing the Dallas Cowboys, a team that has just let a lot of teams score a lot of points. Dallas Cowboys fans are pretty unhappy at this time of year. Losing record, most likely eliminated from the playoffs, and it's because of the defense. I think they're expecting to move on from Matt Eberflus after this year, possibly even moving on from the head coach. And I don't know that things are going to get better. We've seen Matt Eberflus as a head coach when things got worse. They just kind of fell off a cliff and got even worse. Is it possible that happens with the Cowboys? Maybe. Dowdle at 18, Judkins at 19. Dowdle did step right back into that lead rushing role before going on bye in week 14. I think I have that right. Carolina in week 13 against the Rams. It was an even split of Dowdle and Chuba. And then after the bye, it was back to Dowdle as the lead back. And that's what I would expect against the Bucs, who are a tougher run defense. Well, actually, they're decent run matchup. Got Judkins at 19 against the Bills. There's a chance the Bills just run away with this game, and Judkins is kind of removed from the option like we saw with the Bears. And that was a multiple score lead. They weren't really leaning on Judkins in the comeback effort. If what we're looking for in a game against the Bills is somewhat of an even matchup where they can use Judkins early to control the clock, but there's always a chance it just gets away from him. So I have him at 19. Breece Hall, I think, will bounce back. He had a bad week last week. I'm expecting a bounce back. I've got him at about 20. We could move him up to ahead of DeAndre Swift-ish if we're looking at tiers. I do think of these in tiers. So when I see spots like that, I could move Breece Hall all the way up to about Chase Brown, but I couldn't see myself starting him ahead of Chase Brown. We'll move him back to where he was. Got Harvey at 21, Genty at 22. Harvey just not getting fully used. He's still the best option that they have. He's been getting used more, but Jacksonville is a really tough run defense in general. So that's why I would have Harvey at 21. Genty, we could move him down to like here. It's the Houston Texans. Horrible defensive matchup, horrible O-line for the Rams. I'm not that excited to use Genty. I think better games are coming. They just might be next year after some offseason roster moves. Aaron Jones at 23, Woody Marks at 22. I think I'm a little bit low on Woody Marks taking on the Raiders. The Raiders have been a pretty plus matchup for teams. You know, they just got shut out this last week. I don't know that the Texans offense and their O-line is good enough to take advantage. That's my thoughts on it. I don't feel it super strongly, but that's where I've got a subpar running back, a very below par O-line. Can they match up well against a defense? Like, even if your defense isn't that good, this O-line is probably worse. That's my thoughts on that. Jaylen Warren at 25. It's becoming more of a split between Jaylen Warren and Kenneth Gainwell. And my take on that is Jaylen Warren wasn't that great to begin with. That a player like Kenneth Gainwell, who's also not that great, could just take over some of that role. I think what we can say here is, how bad is Caleb Johnson if he can't take work from these guys? They're okay. If one of them was the lead guy, they would be pretty good in this offense, but it's become somewhat of a split. Jaylen Warren maybe a little bit banged up, maybe a little bit sick in the past couple of weeks. I've got him at 25, and I've got Gainwell at 29, really because we just don't know where the touchdowns are going to go. And that would be a similar thing with Tyrone Tracy and where is he? Tyrone Tracy and Devin Singletary. It started to lean back to Tyrone Tracy. But Tyrone Tracy's not that special of a runner that Devin Singletary couldn't become the hot hand in any game. And that's the same situation that we have with Gainwell and Jalen Warren. Krosky Merritt, I've got ranked as 26. If Chris Rodriguez goes in this game, I would just swap him in here. I would swap Chris Rodriguez right in for Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt. This could just also say Washington running back. I just haven't made that change by typing that in. Ken Walker, I've got at 27. This is another split backfield where we just don't know where the work's really going or that they're going to be that successful in general. Last week against the Colts, neither one of them really was. Neither running back, Ken Walker or Charbonnet, got in the end zone. If I have to pick one to score, I would pick Ken Walker, but it's pretty close to a toss-up. Now we're getting into the deep desperation options where you're kind of just hoping that they get a touchdown. Or before we get to those, we've got Tony Pollard and Michael Carter as the bad lead options, is how I would describe them. We expect Michael Carter and Tony Pollard to be the lead. They're just not very good. So we're not expecting a ton from them. Now we're looking into the touchdown hopefuls. David Montgomery is probably most likely to get a touchdown of the second player in the split backfield. Montgomery behind Gibbs, Charbonnet behind Walker, Corum behind Williams, Monungai behind Swift, Tucker behind Bucky, Algier behind Bijan. They're all kind of the same situation. They're the second option in their offense, but they do have a shot at a touchdown. We can keep that going with Vidal, Stevenson, Mason. And then we get into Tootin, who might fit that same role. Maybe we move Tootin up to 41, and then Singletary and Pirine are just guys that will see snaps at a rate where you can use them in fantasy. Maybe they break a long play, but that's what you're hoping for. A long run. Hopefully it gets into the touchdown. Hopefully they get into the end zone. And they have a shot at getting you 8 fantasy points in PPR, and that's about what they are. There's a realistic shot they get it, but there's also a chance they don't. And then we're into this tier of whichever Saints running back it is, where would I put them? If it's Kamara, I would match him up around Aaron Jones. If Devin Neal was starting, he would be in the Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt range. And then if neither of them are going and it's a mix of Evan Hull and Audric Estime, they would be into this Kyle Monungai, Blake Corum, Charbonnet range where they could just be bad. Similar situation with Isaiah Pacheco and Kareem Hunt. I just don't know how well this offense performs without Pat Mahomes there, and neither one of these guys is that good to begin with. Kareem Hunt, Pacheco. If you're desperate and you need to start one, it would be Kareem Hunt, and I guess I would put him here, 32. So we'll just leave him in there. And Tajay Spears, Rasheen Ali, Spears could end up there. Tajay Spears gets usage. Does he always get in the end zone? No. He's kind of in this range of you hope that he finds the end zone or breaks a long pass or gets a couple catches. That's what you're hoping for with someone like Tajay Spears. A couple receptions out of the backfield, and that just adding up in PPR. There's always a chance he breaks a long one, maybe a 40-yard reception, but not in most weeks. So that's going to bring us to the end of the running back rankings. If this has helped you set your lineup, let me know with a like, a subscribe. If you disagree with a rank, that's fine. The whole game is just us valuing players differently. So let me know with a comment. Otherwise, if you are looking for quarterbacks, wide receivers, or tight ends, there will be a link to one of them on your screen, either here, or maybe nowhere. And you just need to subscribe. I'm not exactly sure how TikTok works. I think I get a link on the screen. I think so. If it's there, great. Otherwise, I'm just a man holding my hands like this. Thank you very much. I will see you guys in the next one.